The bill for an act to amend the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act (CAP) D3 LFN 2004. Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues, it is my honor and privilege to present the report of the Senate Joint Committee comprising Senate Petroleum Upstream, Gas, and Finance on the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract (CAP) D3 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2019. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, you will recall that the Senate, at its sitting on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019, debated a motion on the urgent need to review and recover additional revenue accruable to governments of the Federation from the production sharing contract pursuant to Section 16 of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act (CAP) D3 LFN 2004, and resolve as follows: to mandate the Committees on Petroleum Resources Upstream, Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, and Finance to find out the reason for the failure to review the salient provisions of the production sharing contracts under the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act, identify the best fiscal regime for PSCs in Nigeria, and review the provisions of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act (CAP) D3 LFN 2004 to ensure that the share of the federal government in the contract is adjusted in accordance with the provision of the Amended Act. Pursuant to its mandate to identify the best fiscal regime for the PSC and to review the provisions of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act (CAP) D3 LFN 2004, an amendment bill was tabled before this distinguished Senate and read the first time and second time on October 3 and October 8, 2019, respectively. Following the second reading, this bill was referred to the Joint Committees on Petroleum Resources Upstream, Gas, and Finance for further legislative action. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the Joint Committee commences assignment immediately, considering the critical importance of the task given to it. Further to this, the Joint Committee held a public hearing yesterday, October 14th, to which it invited all the stakeholders, including all relevant government ministries, departments and agencies, and PSC parties, as well as other relevant stakeholders. Once the public hearing was declared open by our dear Senate President, His Excellency Dr. Ahmed Lawan, CON, the Joint Committee went into a closed-door session with the stakeholders, without the press, without any other party, at the end of which far-reaching recommendations were made to the Joint Committee on the issues pertinent to the amendment of this Act. Mr. President, we were able to tell ourselves the truth in closed door. The Joint Committee considered the oral and written memorandum of all the stakeholders submitted to it during the public hearing and has amended the bill transmitted to it in line with these recommendations, as well as relevant global best practices, and of course, our own dear national priorities and interests. Highlights of the amendment and review of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act (CAP) D3 LFN 2004 undertaken by the Joint Committee include the following: amendment of the provisions for the payment of royalties, which requires that all licenses and leases holders in the deep offshore shall pay stipulated royalty irrespective of the water depth or terrain of their operations. Currently, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, any of these PSC contractors operating beyond 1,000 meters depth pay zero royalty, no royalty to government. and 95% of our production in the PSA happens in this depth of water. Adoption of a regime of royalty by price to ensure that the royalty payable is reflective in accordance with the changes in the price of crude oil, condensates, and natural gas, in line with Section 16 of the current extant Act. Inclusion of clause for mandatory periodic review of the PSA, and inclusion of an offense or offenses and penalty clause to deter persons from flouting the provisions of this Act going forward. Mr. President, my distinguished and respected colleagues, the report of our joint committee on this bill contains the amendment of certain provisions of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act Cap D3 LFN 2004, which is Section 5 and Section 16 of this Act. Our recommendations alters the royalty payable by the PSA contractors such that whenever oil and gas price increases, the share of government also increases automatically with the inception of the newly introduced royalty by price mechanism. The bill provides that whenever oil price goes above $20 per barrel, the royalty by price shall kick in so that government can participate in reaping the benefits of this increase in oil price. Currently, the government does not participate at all whatsoever. Another significant recommendation contained in our report is that every PSC company operating in a deep offshore shall pay appropriate royalty to government, irrespective of terrain or water depths in which they operate. This marks the end of zero royalty in a deep offshore, with great government improvement in revenue. The Joint Committee report also contains recommendations for 10-yearly review of the PSC, as well as offenses and penalty clauses to ensure compliance with the provisions of this Act. This means that Nigeria, our dear country, will never lose revenue again, just because no one cares to activate the provisions of the extant law. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the Joint Committee report contains this long-awaited amendment of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act Cap D3 LFN 2004. This amendment will ensure the share of federal government of Nigeria in additional revenue is adjusted to the extent that the PSA shall be economically beneficial to the government of Nigeria, as in Section 16 of the current Act. Mr. President, and our distinguished colleagues, I believe the Joint Committee has accomplished this equivalent task set before us. We have reviewed the provisions of the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act Cap D3 LFN 2004 to ensure that the share of the federal government of Nigeria in the contract is adjusted in accordance with the provision of the extant acts. We can guarantee that once this bill is passed, there will be significant increase in contributions to government revenue from the deep offshore. Finally, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I want to especially thank my colleagues and all the members of the Joint Committee who collectively worked so hard without sleep to ensure that we conclude this critical assignment within this record time. I also wish to express our profound gratitude to you, our leader, the Senate President, especially, and by extension, our leadership, and the distinguished Senate, for our collective resolve to break this ice once and for all. It is verifiably clear that this ninth Senate will stand out for this show of patriotism and love for our dear country. On this note, Mr. President, I humbly request the quick consideration and passage of this bill into law. As I submit, Mr. President.
Contributions?
I'd like to commend the chairman and the members of the committee for a very thorough job. Well done. But Mr. President, while I second and support the report, I have just one concern that I will need some clarifications on. The extant law, Mr. President, provides for a review after 5 years and thereafter 15 years, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, but right now, Mr. President, listening to the report, it does appear that...
Senator Albert, listen to what the DSP is saying because you may have to respond.
It does appear, Mr. President, that there's been a reduction, an increase, frankly, instead of the 5-year period of review, it's been taken to 10 years. And Mr. President, we know this has consequences, in terms of the revenue that will be coming to us by virtue of the provisions of this amended act. I'd like some clarifications why there is such an adjustment to 10 years from...
Take note of the observations. Senator Jibrin Barrow.
Mr. President, I wanted for us to get to the clause by clause stage, but since he has started to bring before the Senate some of this issue, I think I should also state this.
No, if it is on a clause thing, we wait until when we come to the committee of the whole. Any comments? Leader, actually most of the clauses are retained because the amendment is only in few sections of the bill, probably 2 only. So we start with clause 1. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5. Correction, clause 5. Senator Orogide.
Under the recommendation by the committee.
Say no, what I'm going to pay you is 4 naira. And then you start going to court to get interpretation. This, what you are saying now is understandable to us and is commendable because you were there to do it. But we that were not there do not understand it. So that gives that room and gap that we should close. A law should be unambiguous, clear, and capture all the nitty-gritties to reflect what Aisha raised now. If it is 14%, the interpretation should be clear that A plus B is what we are targeting to 14%. So it should be very clear. The law should be clear and unambiguous. That's my position on this.
And in that act, in this section 5 of the existing act, royalty was based on debt, all debt. And in the section 16 of the existing act, it says when oil prices increases to up to $20, the share of government should also increase. That share of government is royalty not by debt, but by price. So what the law now is saying is that Nigeria will benefit from 2 aspects of royalty. In one, it is in debt, because it is also in line with the Petroleum Act that you are deferring royalty by debt. Then additionally, whenever there is an increase in price from $20 to $60, from $60 reflects automatically take this level of royalty. I'm sure we have also shared documents like this. We all have it, where we have compared Nigeria with other competing market. We must ensure that whatever law we are passing does not disincentivize investment, but will also balance government revenue. Mr. President, Mr. Chair, I believe that what you have done, what you have championed, is that you are increasing royalty currently on the existing based on the existing act from 1.3% to almost 18%. It is the best we can achieve, and it's in line with industry practice. It is also an industry that if oil prices, if price increases, cost also increases. And we have reflected the context of this analysis in this law that is being passed, Mr. President. It's for the benefit of this country.
That is why the motion was
Your Mr. President, this is very clear. We are talking about prices. At the moment, these prices of petroleum, crude prices ranges, around $60 to $100. Now, that is where we get the most. So it is very, very important we concentrate on this particular range, 60 to 100. And there is nothing wrong in leaving it at 8%, which is the international best practice. Now, a colleague of ours has indicated that there are other fees or charges they are paying, like education tax or whatever. Well, we don't know how much, but as far as this section is concerned, it's specific about the prices of petroleum products. Let us see what we can capture, what we'll be able to get as revenue based on international best practice.
Emotions running down like water. What you explained to us explains the efforts you have made to get the best for this country, up to $1.5 billion annually. This is highly commendable. But what we are saying, so that people don't get each other misunderstood, is that we should fine-tune this very law, or this very clause, so that it will not be ambiguous, and it doesn't take anything. So it will be very clear, like the distributor have said, these are documents we are going to leave for generations yet unborn. So if arises in the case of a litigation or something, nobody will be as confused as to what we're up to. And so I seriously recommend, we're commending you for the effort you have done, your personal intervention on this matter, that let's agree and clarify this clause, and listen to those who have made inputs and allow some more clarification if people have something to put in it. For me, this is one step commendable, but if we can go a little further to clarify this issue and make it a clean paper, it's better for all of us. Thank you.
Of the document. The model assumptions. Maybe this is one of the problems that the committee is facing. But let me read what is written here. Leader and former leader, please. The model assumptions, royalty by price, $20 to $60. Royalty by price will be 2.5%. Royalty by depth is 10%. So effective royalty will be 11.67%. That is about 12%. I think the committee has not been able to either distribute this. You should share to our colleagues. This is one of the best things we can do for our country. And no matter what time we take to understand this thing and pass it, is worth it. If you look at page 4, this document, I want you to stand up once again and explain to us. Thank you.
Of these assumptions. Mr. Chairman, in page 1, we have all the fields. We have all the fields and the leases on PSC. We also have them. We also have the annual production per field and then annual production per PSC. It means that if you look at from that column. One. Can we listen, please? If you look at that, if you look at that column, Mr. Chairman, the total production on PSC annually is 275.250 million barrels per year. And currently, what we are getting from the 275 million barrels per year, sir. Look at this figure. From 200 and something million barrels a year, we are only getting, if you look at where you have the column where you have the DNC, which is the current status, we're only getting 0.21%. Only 0.21%. That's what we are getting there from this volume of all the production. And if you look at the 0.21%, it comes to about $250-something million. That's where we are currently. With the adjustment that we have made, with what we have done, you go to the last row, you have what we call effective royalty, based on what we are proposing now. It therefore means that if you look at effectively at for example, the current oil price, which we are hovering around between the $20 and $60 per barrel, based on what we have done here. If you look at what we have proposed here, to apply what we have done here to this volume, Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, it means that you'll be, when it comes to the flat rate on debt on royalty in Section 5 of this law, it's very simple. We are going to apply, first of all, we apply 10% in line with Section 5A. Based on that, we apply 10% on this volume, on 10% times of price times volume. Then, in addition, you also apply, in line with Section 5(2) on price, you also apply additional 2.5%. So, in essence, what you are applying in terms of royalty on this volume, based on as we speak, based on the current price, what is signed into law, is almost about 12%, Mr. Chairman. Instead of 0.2%. So, Mr. Chairman, the law should be made with clarity. So, royalty, those that will be applying the royalty, which is the DPR, will apply first based on Section 5A and also apply based on Section 5B. That's how it is done before deduction of other costs, in line with what we have here. And we have also compared other markets on page 3 of this. If you go to page 3, you will see what is available in our other competing markets around sub-Saharan Africa. You will know what Mozambique is. You'll see what Mozambique is doing. Mozambique is more or less a gas market, not really an oil market. So if you are comparing Nigeria with any African country, you compare Nigeria with Angola. So if you come down, you'll see what Angola is doing. Angola currently is still charging zero on royalty on debt, but with other taxes. So I think, Mr. President, this is very clear. This is very, very clear. It's very, very clear. This is the best we can do for the country right now, sir.
I think the ayes have it. Clause 6. Clause 6. Those in favor that Clause 6 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 7. Clause 7. Those in favor that Clause 7 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Those in favor that Clause A stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9. Those in favor that Clause 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say aye, nay. The ayes have it. Clause 10. Those in favor that Clause 10 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 11. Those in favor that Clause 11 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12. Those in favor that Clause 12 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 13. Those in favor that Clause 13 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 14. Those in favor that Clause 14 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 15. Those in favor that Clause 15 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment. Amendment. Which clause? Use your mic, please.
Mr. Stability on who should champion that review. So you don't blame the National Assembly for it. You don't blame anybody for it. I believe that we are here to review this law in line with Amended. If that law has said 15 years, we have to bring it up to 10 years before any subsequent review. This you cannot take it in 5 years. I'm telling you now.
We strongly feel that it should be 5 years. Can someone move for an amendment and then someone seconds?
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman, before, sir. Before, sir.
Okay, before.
Thank you. I've listened to everybody. Indeed, at some instances, I have to call and reconfirm again because I was there throughout. Yesterday, they all argued that they needed more than 5 years to keep. Just wait. Indeed, at some point in time, I even interjected and said, no, this is about Nigeria and this is what we should do. The GMD of NNPC, after some time, agreed that, okay, let's jack it up to, he said 7 or 8 years. Now, the DPR came and probably said maybe 7, 8 years. But of course, all the stakeholders said 15 years. And that's what they said yesterday. And we all disagreed that no, we cannot agree with 15 years. So, and that is what we all agreed yesterday. But clearly, 5 years will not allow them, 5 years will not allow them to recoup whatever they've done. So we can now sit down and take a decision. Okay.
Mr. President, temperament on this particular issue. Just imagine that you are an investor and it will take you 5 years to reach an investment decision. Now, just about when you are about to invest, the rules of the game completely change. Will you invest? No. These are the issues that I think we should really sit down and consider before taking any other decision on this very, very crucial and important matter. Because it will impact on the investment decisions that these companies are going to take. And if it takes them up to 5 years for them to reach a decision, and then we change the rules of the game just as they are about to take a decision, imagine the impact of that on the progress of our oil industry. Thank you.
Before any more time, 7-8 from the submissions of Senator Amoson, our committee that was supposed to do this work for us, at the engagement with IOCs and other stakeholders, I just want to make an appeal. If we can't give the 10 years, at least what our committee members argued on our behalf yesterday should be upheld. At least 8 years. So I will call on the leader. No. The Senator Amoson, 8 years.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me respectfully move a motion that we should increase this, reduce it by just 2 years and make it 8 years. I was there 8 years. 7 years.
Senator Kabirga.
8 years. I didn't allow. I know.
I think we debated a lot on this matter. I second the motion ably moved by Senator Amoson for 8%. For 8 years. 8 years, sorry.
Clause 16, as amended, that stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 17. 17. We are past that. 17 to 17. 17 is interpretation. What are you trying to amend? Okay. Amendment to 17.
Any obligation imposed by any provision of this act commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not below 50 million, and for an entity shall be liable on conviction to payment of the money that should have accrued to Nigeria as result of his indictment. So, if an entity fails to comply with the provision of this act, that entity on conviction should be liable to pay an amount of money equivalent to the money that has been lost by Nigeria. Okay.
It's on his own. Identifies only two parties. Because this is not the contract. The oil companies have nothing to do with this penalty. Because the extant law currently identifies only two parties on the countryside. Number one of the parties is the corporation, here identified as the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. And then the other party is the Minister of State. So Section 17 here states clearly that we just approved that the minister shall cost the corporation. That's when we have tied all of them in here, which was not there in the current act. That the minister shall cost the corporation, which is the NNPC, to call for a review of the production sharing contract. We have very committed them there. So that section 18 now qualifies section 17 that anybody who does not do this causes an offense. Yes, because the PSC is a commercial contract between NNPC and the IOCs. They have nothing to do with this. It's a legal person. Yes, and it's a legal entity, so you can't. I don't know.
Engage in that debate, because a person could also include a corporate person. But my concern here, Mr. President, is that this fine, is this 50 million naira? Mr. President, this is chicken feed. You know, this is chicken feed. Frankly, the reason we are here today is because there are some people, there were some people in NNPC whose obligation it was. Order. There were some people, Mr. President, in NNPC whose obligation it was to ensure that this review took place. They did not do that. Now, with this amendment, Mr. President, the only punishment, the only penalty, the only sanction they will face is... There's more? But in any event, Mr. President, the 50 million is too small. Yes, 50 million or imprisonment for a period of not less than 1 year or both. What's that? You know, we're talking about big money here, Mr. President. You know, it is too meager. Even at that. Yes, Mr. President. Yes, Mr. President, I hereby, as a punitive measure, 500 million or 5 years. Because this will deter. It will deter them from even thinking about it. Thank you.
The sum of 500 million and a 5 years imprisonment for any person in Naira. Mr. President, so second.
Motion that clause 17 stands part of the bill as amended, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Short title of the bill. Those in favor that the short title of the bill stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The long title would be, those in favor that the long title starts part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for Mr. President to move back to plenary to report progress. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Joint Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream, Gas Resources, and Finance on Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract, CAP D3 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2019, and approved as follows. Clauses 1 to 16 as recommended, clause 17 as amended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues.
Moved by the Senate leader and seconded by the minority leader that the bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk. A bill for an act to amend the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Sharing Contract, CAP D3, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria Act 2004, for other matters connected there to 2019 third reading taken and passed. Distinguished colleagues, let me congratulate all of us here that we have done what could not be done between 2003 to date. So today marks a milestone in the history of the Senate, particularly this Senate and indeed the National Assembly, that we can do whatever it is to offer our people, for our country. By passing this bill, Nigeria will gain at least $1.5 billion in 2020 as a result of passing this act, this amendment. We are going to do many more. And I want to congratulate our joint committee. And in fact, at this point, I would also like to congratulate Mr. President and the executive side of government. Because in the process, in fact, initiation and the process of amending this bill, both sides of government have worked together tirelessly. Our committee, together with NNPC, worked up to 5 a.m. this morning to get this report put together. I want to congratulate the sponsors, but of course, number one sponsor is Mr. President, who mentioned the need to amend this bill in his budget speech of 2020 to us last week. And of course, we also received an executive communication from him. And of course, the sponsors here in the Senate, Senators Basi, Akpan, Albert, and the Prince of the Senate, Senator Efanyuba, who sponsored. But the credit goes to distinguished senators who passionately insisted to understand before we passed every clause. And that is the way it should go, because this is a fundamental legislation. For the IOCs, those in oil business in Nigeria, the amendment will not in any way discourage investment. We expect that they will continue to do business in Nigeria. When we do legislations in the National Assembly, we will always be mindful of the need to have a competitive environment, just like we did in this one. And when we work on the PIB in the next, maybe from January, we will ensure that it is a win-win situation for Nigeria and Nigerians on one hand, and those doing business in Nigeria in the oil and gas industry. With this, I want to congratulate the 9th Senate for this very important landmark legislation. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr.